We're prepared to offer a $200,000 base salary, $75,000 signing bonus, and performance incentives that could take your annual comp to over $500,000 a year. It's a pretty compelling offer. It's a generous offer, Mason, and look, I really appreciate the confidence that you're showing in me, but would it be too much to ask if we walk through it together? Of course. If I take this offer as it stands, of course, a very important position. I'll be well compensated. However, I feel like I struggle to see how it would be tied to the long-term success of the company. Is that unreasonable of me to feel like there's a gap there? Not necessarily, but what kind of gap are we talking about? Well, you're not really hiring me just to execute plans, right? You're bringing me in to drive growth, to scale operations, to innovate. And, I feel as though I would love my compensation to be very aligned with those targets. And that's why we've included performance incentives in the offer. And I totally respect that. It's just the performance incentives as they are right now are more short-term oriented. And look, I'll cut to the chase here, and you're going to think I'm being really greedy, but what I'm really looking for is an equity portion to the offer. Ideally, a 2% stake in the company, but it's fully tied to performance and the metrics that I drive. 2%? Alex, the equity that large is not something we typically offer. Maybe it's not typical, but look, this is a small-sized company with enormous growth potential. And based on my history of being a part of some pretty big operations and scaling and growing several different companies, I feel like I could come in and make a really, really big splash. I just really would love for my compensation to be aligned with that. The base bonus and performance incentives already make this offer extremely compelling for any VP for a small or large company. And the equity is not something this company typically indulges in for these types of offers. And the way you folks are thinking about it makes a ton of sense to me, for sure. But what I'm currently looking for and what I have a history of doing is taking a company from 10 to 50 million, 50 to 250, 200 to 400. I do this, and I know I can do this. With your confidence and with enough skin in the game, I think if we can align those incentives, we could do a lot of damage together. What happens if our growth slows? Does that equity not become less valuable to you? And, I bear that risk too. But look, I think a 2% performance-based stake, it doesn't even happen unless I come in and make massive change and massive benefit for the business. And if it does happen, it's still a relatively modest portion of the company. Do I sound crazy here? No, you don't, but you're asking me to pitch this to the founder, and that's going to be a tough sell. You need to understand that wherever we land with this equity piece, whether we implement it, we don't, we're going to reserve the right to adjust the equity if those targets aren't hit. And I can live with that.